we brought the two woofers out again. I thought we'd have another try in a different... Stay there, Lassie, stay there. I thought we'd have another try at, you know, a slightly different pitch. I don't pitch this shape much. In fact, to be fair, I've probably only pitched this shape and camped under it. Well, I definitely did it once and then I had to change it to a regular shape because the weather turned a long time ago. And then I think last year or the year before, maybe the year before, we had a very hot summer and I pitched like this, I think one night, and it worked fine. I do prefer the more conventional pitch, but obviously this one, to get this shape, you put the logo at the back. So rather than the logo being the front door, the logo now becomes the back. So that's, and then it's like a square, but it's not a square. The problem that I find is that this pole here needs to be really quite long in comparison to the one underneath to get this door shape. And even now, you know, it could almost, well, probably not be much higher than that, to be fair, but the only way that I could do that, this is a 1.2 meter from ground to floor from ground to floor, Jesus, from floor to top. That's 1.2. I think if you wanted to make it the 1.35, I think you'd want to have slightly longer lines on there. I'm not quite sure, but now I figured out, because originally I put short lines all the way around and then had it pegged to the ground, and then this bit then here, it was kind of coming up to here. My pole wasn't long enough. I needed a 10-foot pole to get the front door fitted. So we'll maybe just loosen things off, and then we will maybe just see whether we can get it, you know, a little bit higher, because Ron did say in his it's 1.35, so I'm not quite sure how he's done that, but we'll have a quick look. But while it's at this, obviously, as I say, this is 1.2, and at least with this you can, you know, you can walk into it, and you know, if you were to lie at the back like this, I think in this scenario you definitely would want a waterproof bivvy if you were going to be camping, you know, like this, and that, you know, rain was forecast, because the front door kind of over there, it's 2 meters. You got to remember, each side is 2 meters, so you know, you probably would stay dry. But I think if I was pitching this and weather was, you know, possible rain coming in, I possibly would be wanting a waterproof, you know, bivvy. I'm not sure, because I've never done this pitch in poor weather. Let's see. So thoughts and comments, you know, on that one. You could just about, as long as you're not very tall, lie at the back. Your feet are, you know, they're under cover, but obviously this is, you know, as I say, if you want to peg this to the ground, then you'd have to have this pole lower. Otherwise your door, it gets too high, so everything would have to drop down. And, you know, I think if you were needing to peg it lower, I think, and of course remember, your ground sheet, your fitted ground sheet won't fit in this shape. But I think if you were, you know, going to sleep at the back in this one, I think you would struggle. But you would have enough room in the regular Trailstar, you know, to go at the back. It's just when you picture it like this, I kind of get the impression that the door has to be, you know, a lot higher than the inner outer. Yeah, the door has to be higher than the inner. Yeah, so just to show you, so the centre pole is now about 135, and you can see now this one here is a little bit slack. So to get that high, to get that tight I mean, so you have to have that higher. So I think what we'll do is, we have been able to shorten the lines a little, so I think what we'll do is we'll lengthen the lines and then bring the peg out a few inches, and we'll try that. We've just got that a little bit tighter on the edge there. It's still a little bit slack there, but that's got that a little bit tighter. I haven't bothered doing the mid, you know, the mid tie off points, but that's around about a 1.35 meter pitch inside and outside. But to get that, you can only do that, as I say, with very long lines. If you shorten these lines, then your door won't work. Your door has to be up to the sky. But obviously there you've got, you know, an absolute, you know, ton of room inside, and that would certainly make a nice shelter if the weather, you know, if the weather was decent. That would make a very nice shelter. When you pitched, you know, like this, you've got an absolute Lizzie, stay there. You've got an absolute ton of space under here, pitched like this, obviously in a sheltered position. The reason why I pitched it how I did last time was, in the UK we don't have much coverage, we don't have many trees and things, so we tend to need to have the sides quite low to the ground. But if you've got tree shelter, then this would, you know, certainly be, you know, a really good shelter in a forest, because it's being smaller than the regular Trailstar, you know, you would have a lot more possibilities of pitching it, you know, around trees in a small clearing or something. So one question that was asked is, will the regular Trailstar ground sheet fit under here? Yes, it does. And, you know, plenty of room, certainly, you know, certainly at this height, and certainly at this height it does, which is obviously, you know, a little bit high. I'm not exactly sure how high this is, but, you know, this is probably a good meter or more here. There's, you know, an absolute, if you were again in a sheltered spot, you know, I'm really quite liking this shelter, because if you're not, you know, Jeff Capes, you know, obviously if you're 6 foot, you know, genuinely I think you will struggle if you're 6 foot. But I'm 5'8". Got to remember, I don't have an airbed under me. But, you know, obviously that's the mat as normal. And, you know, there's just stacks and stacks of room under here. I think we'll make it a bit lower, and we'll kind of see what it's like when it's a bit lower. So the weather's coming in. I'll show you what to do when the weather comes in. So weather's coming in. So let's drop it down to that. It's still enough. You know, we're still gonna have working space in here, just. So loosen the door. I suggest that you loosen the door first. Obviously, because the weather is coming in, we want to have the back quite close to the ground. I forgot to bring my external microphone. Wasn't very helpful. So we'll get that one close to the ground. That's quite close to the ground. And we've still got long lines. But Lizzie. Now obviously this side here, we want to be that side there, because that's obviously where our head is. I do notice obviously the ground sheet now is very close to the door, so you know, quite possible you would want to try and move the ground sheet further back. Lizzie, you do have to crawl in a bit now, and you've got plenty of room at the back, so you know, if you wanted to loosen off the two pegs at the front, you could move the back further back. Admittedly, we have, you know, we have Yodified ourselves, you know, quite a bit, but you've got plenty of room. I can almost sit up here when I'm lying down here. My head's, and again, I'm not on an airbed, but you know, my head is nearly touching the top, but you would be very well protected. I mean, this has given us a very, very low, you know, a very low wide front door. You know, this would certainly give you, you know, plenty of protection. I know some people don't like crawling in and out, but I'm kind of used to it, so it doesn't really bother me too much. If it's not too windy, to the side by your head, you might still want this close to the ground here, but remember the ground sheet will go back. See, then you can raise your door up that side. You've still got protection over there, and now you've got a slightly higher, door. If you just loosen that side off a bit, that side's still quite close to the ground. This side that's against the prevailing wind. So if the wind was coming from behind or to the left, as I keep saying, just remember the ground sheet can be moved back, you know, really easily. And now with that very minor adjustment, okay, it's still, you know, I'm not saying you've got a ton of room, you haven't, but you know, you've still got, you know, some room, and that would give pretty decent coverage under here. And the other thing that we want to try is we want to see whether this ground sheet will fit the other way round. So I've pretty much shown you everything with this shelter, low, high, with the other pitch. If I've missed anything, you know, mention it, and then I'll try and get down here again when I need to give Bella training, you know, at home. So I'm just curious. So if we want this to be the other side, So because someone asked, can two ground sheets, two of these ground sheets fit under here? So I'm thinking they will. Everybody, including Ron, I believe, says they can't. I think, and I might be completely and utterly wrong, but I think the corner that was that corner down there, I think becomes this one here. And then, maybe not. How did I? Maybe not. No. No, it won't fit like that. No, it's strange. I don't know what I don't know, but no. No is the answer. Ron, obviously, no. I just had this feeling that I'd actually put it that way once, but obviously not. Okay, well, I hope you found that video fun and entertaining and interesting. Obviously the Lord Ron knows better about the ground sheet. It's kind of one of those things where I didn't think that it fitted because I've never seen it done. It's only that when I was in Scotland with Chris, I was sleeping on that side out of necessity. So I think you can kind of like put the ground sheet like that on the other side, but I don't think it's fitted for that side, I think is the answer to that one. I think if you wanted to use two people in there, then you'd either need two bivvies, or, you know, one ground sheet, or I suppose you could just have the other ground sheet and turn it upside down, inside out, but then obviously your line lock, you know, obviously then your bungee line locks won't work because they're obviously on the inside. But I mean, that might still work because they're only at the top. So if you turn it upside down, I don't know whether that would work or not, to be fair. Anyway, I'm going to get back. I need to go and see. Bella's been in the house about an hour, so I better head back, see Bella. So if you've got any other ideas of things to pitch out here over the next few weeks, then shout. What I'll try and do, because someone mentioned about the Duo Mid and the Solo Mid XL, so I might try and bring those two out maybe next week, and because I've got the original inner for the Duo Mid and the new Solo Mid inner, so it might be interesting to swap those inners around and just measure them and see, because I was having a couple of questions on the sizing. I just had to put some more duct tape on my old Duo Mid for that one. But yeah, well, maybe that's something else we could do. Anyway, get this packed up and we will catch up in the next video. These will be interspersed with my Dartmoor camping videos, I think, at this rate. Anyway, I'll see you next time. Thanks very much for watching.